A court challenge to the province's Mining Act filed by Northern Ontario First Nations. Good evening and thank you for joining us. 6 First Nations have filed a case in Ontario's Superior Court disputing the province's application of the Mining Act.
The communities say mining claims are being recorded on their lands without any prior consultation. Joel Mendelson joins us in studio now. And Joel, what exactly are the First Nations trying to change?
Yeah, Riley. These communities argue that the Ontario government uses the Mining Act to override their constitutionally protected rights and thus prevents the First Nations from protecting and using their lands.
These lands are our home that hold the sustenance for our future.
A challenge of Ontario's Mining Act. On Monday, 6 Northern Ontario First Nations filed a lawsuit against the province calling the application of the Mining Act unconstitutional. According to the First Nations, mining claims are recorded without any prior consultations with the communities, even though the Mining Act states they should be consulted. They are then notified after the claims have been processed.
The registration of a mining claim gives its holder automatic property rights to the land. These property rights are allowed to overtake First Nation rights. We cannot turn any lands that have mining claims on them into reserves or Indigenous parks. We cannot act as stewards over these lands as our own laws require us to.
The First Nations filed the case in Ontario's Superior Court. They say a huge portion of the land in Northern Ontario, which belongs to them, is now covered with thousands of mining claims.
This legal action is about more than just opposing specific mining claims. It's about challenging a system that regards our rights, violates our sovereignty, and fails to respect our relationship with the land.
They need to stop, this system of where they are staking claims online. Every non-member, every Treaty 9 member, these are the rights holders, and you cannot just work with First Nations, but it's got to be a process of land rights holders, treaty rights holders, and that need to be spoken to, and it's not happening.
Kenora Rainy River MPP Greg Rickford, who also serves as Minister of Indigenous Affairs and First Nations Economic Reconciliation, was unable to provide a comment at this time. This application is expected to take about 1 year to reach a verdict. Joel Mendelson, TBT News.
2 serious fires broke out in Casablanca Lake First Nation over the weekend, including one that burned down the community's only Anglican church. Community firefighters were dispatched to the blaze on Sunday morning. The church had been declared a total loss. KNAP's Criminal Investigations Branch is now involved in the ongoing investigation, and the police service has confirmed it's being treated as a possible arson case. No injuries have been reported and no arrests have been made at this time. The second fire involved a trailer containing supplies for a new home. Through that investigation, KNAP's arrested and charged a 21-year-old from Casablanca Lake with arson.
A local man is in custody after he allegedly assaulted a police officer and tried to escape on foot. The officer was in the process of arresting the 30-year-old outside a Red River Road business on Thursday on an outstanding warrant. The suspect resisted and fled the scene, jumping over fences and running across roadways before he was finally taken in. The accused appeared in court on Friday and remains in custody.
Homeless encampments are back on City Council's agenda tonight. Last month, Council requested the distance guidelines be increased from the original policy, arguing they aren't significant enough to make an impact. Administration was tasked with expanding the limit from 5 to 10 meters around trails, sidewalks, and parking lots. But city staff now say that change isn't feasible, and they recommend sticking with the original distance. Meanwhile, DSAB Chair Brian Hamilton is asking Council to support the board's advocacy to increase supportive housing and social assistance. Hamilton will lobby various ministries on those topics at the AMO conference this week.
If you rely on Simpson Street for your daily commute, you'll have to make a change for the next few months.
Starting Thursday, the section from Ogden to D Street will be fully closed for a $3 million infrastructure project. Jess Clement has the details.
Another significant road project is being taken on by the city, this time on Simpson Street. Crews will be working on the section between Ogden and D Streets starting on Thursday and will be replacing sewer, water, and stormwater infrastructure. They will then move on to resurfacing the roadway.
We're also removing all the ash trees on the street, just to be in preparation, for all this emerald ash borer that we have, the problem we have ongoing. We are excavating the street pretty much fully, replacing the water and sanitary, like I had said, and also doing some touch-up concrete work along the sidewalks and curb and gutter, and street lighting as well, new street lights as well. These street lights have had issues over the last 5 to 10 years, so we're getting them replaced as well.
Project engineer Brian Newman says the $3 million project is expected to take at least 3 months in total. They're hoping to get the underground infrastructure work and baselift paving done by the end of October and continue the rest of the work next year.
There's some potential new site servicing at the north end, so we want to be on top of that come springtime. So we'll finish all the miscellaneous stuff and top lift paving next spring.
The road will be closed to traffic both ways, and motorists will have to detour via Mackenzie Street and May Street. Newman notes there will also be changes for transit users.
As it stands now, it's going to detour at Ogden and come back in somewhere near Dease on Hardesty. So wherever the stops will be some temporary stops. So transit's going to be on top of that. I've been in constant communication with them.
Sidewalks will remain available during construction, but intermittent closures may occur during some phases of the work. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is crying foul over the taxes at the gas pumps here in Ontario.
The organization has released a new gas tax report and is urging the province to make its temporary gas tax cut permanent. CTV's John Musselman has the story.
The Canadian Taxpayers Federation says Ontario's gas tax cut has saved families nearly $900 over the 2 years it's been in place. Now it's calling on the provincial government to make it permanent.
And if you add up the taxes throughout the year for the typical two-car family, they're paying $2,000 a year in gas taxes.
The tax cut was first announced in 2022. It has been extended 3 times since to ease the pain at the pump. Motorists we talked to want the cut extended.
It cost me a lot of money to fill my tank, so it would definitely be nice if it was lower.
I mean, like, I'm of course a 24-year-old that's trying to make it into my own house apparently, or one day. So if I need to do that, I need to at least afford gas first.
I feel like I'm paying more than should I pay. I see the prices in the United States. It's completely different.
Here's a look at the numbers from the Federation report. Taxes make up 34% of the pump price in Ontario. That works out to 56 cents per litre. The average tax on a 64-litre fill-up is nearly $36.
We have to pay for what we have, right? Price of gas is through the roof everywhere, so it's not great.
A spokesperson for the Minister of Finance wouldn't comment on an extension on that gas cut, saying only that, quote, we continue to be a government that cuts taxes and fees for the people of Ontario. The Nonprofit Taxpayers Association is calling on the federal government to get rid of the carbon tax as well.
The carbon tax's days are numbered, and I think people know that because it's such a problem for affordability for working families.
Still, the latest federal data published in June shows that the carbon tax is expected to result in the reduction of 78 million tons worth of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030.
And that was CTV's John Musselman. Well, there's a call for action on affordable childcare in the province without parents having to be on multiple wait lists.
Ontario NDP leader Marit Stiles is demanding the Ford government release its updated funding formula. CTV's Mike Walker has more.
Operators who have signed on to the National Child Care Program 2 years ago argue the current funding formula does not address rising costs, including rent, wages. Many have signaled they are running a deficit, reporting lengthy wait lists, and say it puts their spaces in jeopardy. The program is designed to bring fees down to $10 per day by 2026. So far, the province has cut fees by 50%. Now, while visiting a not-for-profit child care center in Scarborough this morning, Mayor Stiles criticized the Ford government for not setting the program up for success and urged the province to work closely with operators to simplify the funding formula and provide certainty for families.
It's a mess. And since promising affordable childcare, Doug Ford and his conservative politicians have done nothing but create chaos and uncertainty. They've delayed announcing the funding formula, refused to do anything about spots closing or giving certainty to families and childcare workers and providers.
Every childcare center I know of has a deficit. And with the current provincial funding formula, there is no way to increase revenue and make ends meet. We need a realistic funding formula for adequate, sustained funding that recognizes the actual operating costs of high-quality childcare.
Now, back in May, the Ford government did announce that it would be rolling out a new funding formula for next year, but at this point is yet to release any specifics.
Mike Walker, CTV News, Toronto.
A GoFundMe has been set up for the young victim of last week's dog attack. 6-year-old Willow Royer was left with a number of wounds on her face, head, and foot after the dog mauled her outside her Wiley Street home. It happened after she approached the owner and asked to pet the dog. Video shows that the owner left the scene after the attack without helping the girl. The GoFundMe page says Willow is suffering from eye issues and reoccurring nightmares. The donations are being collected to help pay for therapy, counseling, and specialists.
The success of a small-town refugee settlement program in the region is being recognized by the federal government.
Atakokan's Ukrainian Refugee Support Project is helping address the humanitarian crisis caused by the ongoing Russian war on Ukraine. Lee Noonan brings us the story.
As more and more people fled the war in Ukraine, the Atakokan Economic Development Corporation partnered with Resolute Forest Products to help bring refugees to Atakokan. Their Ukrainian Refugee Support Program is now being featured by FedNor as a success story, and in June earned its 2024 Community Futures Award of Excellence for Community Economic Development.
The recognition's nice, but it's really coincidental to the whole project. What's important is that we've been able to resolve a number of problems together.
The program helped Resolute address a workforce shortage and connected refugees with jobs at the mill and with housing. Some live just outside town at the Quetico Center and many in town at the Atakokan Hotel, which had been sitting vacant for years until the AEDC and local volunteers quickly mobilized to get it up and running as a home for refugees.
Through the program, in total, there's probably close to 100. There's still in the neighborhood of 80 Ukrainians living in Atakokan. We've had about 40 through the hotel.
McKinnon estimates that Ukrainian refugees might now make up as much as 5% of the town's population. The 2021 census showed less than 2,000 people living here.
The success of this project here can be multiplied in the whole country, and it's not only about Ukrainian, it's about different people. It can be people from everywhere when they're coming.
Alex Bacall came to Canada through the program, working at the mill and living at the hotel at first. He's now putting his economics background to use working for the AEDC, and since his family joined him in Canada a year ago, has moved into a house in Atakokan.
There can be a lot of opportunity around, but the communications, I think, is the key, because different parts, moving parts can have some opportunity, can have some demand, and when we sit at the one table and we speak honest and directly with each other, we can find a common ground.
Bacall hopes other places will take a close look at the program and draw some lessons from the success in Atakokan.
One job in Atakokan is the equivalent of about 1,350 jobs in Toronto. So if you multiply the numbers, the impact is huge. It's been great for the economy, but it's also been good for the community societally.
Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The sun was shining yesterday for the final day of the Canadian Lakehead exhibition, which saw thousands of visitors rush to the fairgrounds.
Organizers are calling this year's fair a success overall, estimating that 50 to 60,000 people attended over the 5 days. Jessica Clement reports.
Thousands made their way to the CLE grounds for the last day of one of Northwestern Ontario's most popular summer events. The excitement on Sunday was contagious as kids, teens, and adults rushed around to get on the Zipper, Ring of Fire, G-Force, and other favorite rides for the last time. We spoke to some attendees and asked them what their favorite part of the CLE was.
Gotta be the Space Invader.
The food is pretty good. Probably the Orbiter, the Starship Invader, or the Ring of Fire.
My favorite ride was the yo-yo.
Probably the yo-yo. I liked the wind in my face.
Probably the Invaders, because it spins super fast.
I'm always partial to the Sea-Ray every year, but I just went on the G-Force and I'm still feeling it. The food's always great too. That's another big selling point for me. But you know, it's always fun. I come every year and it's great.
The Canadian Lakehead exhibition was another success, with the fairgrounds seeing around 50 to 60,000 attendees over the past 5 days. Friday and Saturday saw a little bit of rain, but CLE spokesperson Tracy LaRocque says that didn't really dampen anyone's spirits.
For the overall entry into the gate, I think it's still pretty equal to what it was last year. We did see lower numbers at the food vendors and maybe lower turnout for the entertainment on the main stage. But the numbers coming through the gates, it's really hard to stop kids from wanting to go on rides, so they're going on rides regardless of the weather.
And while the rides are probably the biggest draw to the fair, the carnival games, food, exhibits, vendors, and main stage entertainment also brought in crowds. LaRocque says they're always trying to make the event bigger and better than the year before, and adds that planning for next year's fair starts right away.
Literally, we sit down with select shows and Canuck Amusements here tomorrow to start planning for next year. So it's a whole year work of of planning and organizing, and then it'll be shortly getting all the entertainment organized for the following year.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Well, and all that hard work is certainly appreciated by the thousands of people who go through the gates. It was certainly busy there last night, Fiona. Now as we turn to the weather, we saw things dip a little bit a few days ago, but we mentioned it there. Very bright and sunny yesterday for the final day of the CLE, and those temperatures are on the increase a little bit again.
Yes, they are. The heat, the humidity, we're going to start using the word humidex again after getting a brief break from that. Today, we had lots of sunshine to start. We had some increasing clouds in the afternoon, but we started out with a low of 10, warmed up to 28, and a humidex that hit 33 this afternoon. So if you were starting to worry that the temperatures were cooling a little too fast, don't worry. Mother Nature's got you in hand. As we take a look at what's going on across the region, temperatures in the mid-20s for most of northwestern Ontario. A little cooler along the North Shore in Marathon at 21, Wawa at 20. But the humidex still reached 29, 30, pretty much across the board. Now they've had some increasing clouds in Red Lake. They're currently partly cloudy, but they've also had periods of smoke earlier in the day. Fort Frances, just a few clouds. Sunshine in Greenstone and Sault Ste. Marie started out partly cloudy, and they've seen increasing clouds throughout the day. They're currently under mostly cloudy conditions. Now here in the city of Thunder Bay tonight, with all that heat and humidity, you get the evening, the cooler air starts to move in, and there's once again a risk of an evening pop-up shower or thunder shower. So don't panic when you see this, but there is a slight risk for the evening. We're going to drop down to a low of 13. Winds will be very light from the northwest, about 5 to 10 kilometers per hour. But that warm-up is going to continue as we move into Tuesday. That humidex is going to keep going up for the next day or so. So I'll have more details on that later on in the news hour.
Okay, thanks a lot, Fiona. I think a lot of people were probably hoping that as we get deeper into August that we would be done with some of those very hot temperatures, but
not quite yet.
They remain with us. All right, well, when we return, we will turn our attention out west to Alberta. It's been several weeks since residents of Jasper were forced to evacuate, but there is some good news. They can start heading home on Friday. We'll have details on that story and more when your Monday News Hour continues right after the break.
Our residents will re-enter to what they will have to make as a new normal.